Ohio that no longer exists. Not officially. It's not on most modern maps. You can't book a hotel there. You can't move in. And if you try to visit, you'll find locked gates, signs warning you to stay out, and locals who refuse to even say its name. But it wasn't always like that. Once, it was just a quiet little town nestled deep in the forests of Summit County. That town was called Boston Township. Today, the world knows it by a different name, Helltown, Ohio. The story of Helltown isn't just one of another forgotten ghost town. It's darker, stranger, and far more disturbing. Because unlike other towns that faded away due to economic decline or natural disaster, Helltown was forcefully and deliberately erased by the government, and no one really knows why. It all began in the 1970s when President Gerald Ford signed a bill that allowed the federal government to acquire private land to expand national parks. On paper, it sounded noble: protect nature, preserve history. But in practice, something else entirely happened in Helltown. Overnight, the government began buying up properties in and around Boston Township. Families were given short notice to pack up their lives and leave. Bulldozers moved in. Homes were marked for demolition. In a matter of months, entire neighborhoods were emptied. Schools closed. Churches locked their doors for good. The post office stopped delivering mail. But here's the strange part. Many of the homes weren't demolished right away. They were just abandoned, left to rot. Windows shattered, furniture still inside, children's toys lying in the grass as if dropped mid-play. A whole town emptied out and left to decay under federal control, behind gates and surveillance. That's when the rumors started. People began to whisper that something else was going on, that the evacuation wasn't about a national park at all, that the government was covering something up, something dangerous. Some said it was a chemical spill the feds didn't want the public to know about. Others believed the area had been the site of secret military experiments gone horribly wrong. And some went even further, claiming the government had discovered something unnatural deep in the forest, something they couldn't control. Over the years, countless stories have come out of Helltown. Strange lights in the woods, blacked out government vehicles driving into the restricted area in the dead of night. Former residents receiving mysterious phone calls telling them never to speak about what they saw. Park rangers stationed nearby who refused to talk to journalists. And perhaps the most unsettling of all, entire sections of the forest that feel wrong. Dead silent, no birds, no insects, just an eerie, heavy stillness, like the land itself is holding its breath. Local urban legends took on a life of their own. There's the tale of the murder church, an old white chapel said to be used for satanic rituals. The windows are boarded up and a heavy chain keeps the doors shut tight. Some say if you look through the cracks, you'll see candles burning, even when no one's inside. Others speak of the end of the world road, a stretch of pavement that abruptly stops at a cliffside. No signs, no barriers, just a drop into the forest below. Rumors claim government vehicles used it to dispose of things or people. Then there's the legend of the mutant creatures, said to be the result of biological experiments conducted in secret by the US government. Deformed animals, human hybrids, forest-dwelling figures seen only at night. They don't make a sound, but their glowing eyes reflect in headlights on foggy roads. Some hikers say they've been followed. Others never came back at all. Of course, skeptics will tell you it's all just urban legend. They'll say the federal government was simply doing its job, creating a new part of Cuyahoga Valley National Park. They'll tell you that ghost stories make good headlines and that teenagers sneaking into abandoned houses see what they want to see. But here's the thing. If there's nothing to hide in Helltown, why is it still closed off? Why is access so heavily restricted to this day? Why are entire roads blocked off, monitored by cameras and patrolled by unmarked vehicles? Why has no comprehensive investigation ever been done into what really happened there? Even the name Helltown is telling. Locals didn't come up with that name. It spread online, fueled by stories and photographs shared by those brave enough to sneak past the barriers. And in those photos, you'll see graffiti that says, "God is not here." You'll see abandoned school buses with smashed windows, surrounded by thick vines. You'll see homes where the front doors hang open, and old televisions still sit in dusty living rooms, tuned to dead static. In 2016, a popular YouTube explorer tried to film inside Helltown. His footage, shaky and low-lit, went viral after he captured what he claimed was a figure watching him from the tree line. He ran, and just before the footage cuts out, you can hear something. Some say it's a scream, others say it's static. But one thing's for sure, he never posted a follow-up video. He disappeared from social media altogether. Then there's the story of Sarah and Mike Jennings, a young couple who moved into one of the government-abandoned houses back in 1982, claiming squatters' rights. They lived off the grid, trying to rebuild a life in the ruins of the town. Their friends said they started acting strange, paranoid, quiet, always watching the woods. One day they were just gone. Their house was found with plates still on the table, the front door open, their dog tied up outside. No signs of struggle, no clues, just gone. Police called it a voluntary disappearance. Their families weren't so sure. Even today, search for Helltown, Ohio, and you'll find dozens of Reddit threads, late-night AM radio episodes, and independent podcasts all trying to piece together what really happened there. Some believe it's just a case of mass hysteria. Others are convinced the government is still hiding something beneath the forest floor. A bunker, a lab, something far older and more dangerous? And then there are those who believe the government wasn't hiding a mistake. They were trying to contain a threat. You see, deep in the official archives of Summit County, there are documents, heavily redacted, mentioning hazardous material reports filed around Boston Township in the mid-70s. But here's the catch. The chemicals listed in those reports don't match anything publicly used in agriculture or industry at the time. The codes used match military-grade substances. That alone wouldn't be too strange, except these reports were filed months before the official park expansion order was signed. Someone knew something was wrong in Helltown long before the public did. And what about the people who lived there? The ones who were forced to leave their homes, their churches, their lives? Some have come forward. An old man named Walter D., who once ran the general store, told a podcast interviewer in 2009, "They didn't ask. They told. They said it wasn't safe. Wouldn't tell us why. But we had to go. I saw things before I left. In the woods. You ever see a deer stand up on two legs and walk like a man?" I have the audio of that interview cuts off midway. The podcast host later said his hard drive was wiped without explanation 2 days after uploading the episode. It's not just creepy stories that make Helltown such a strange place. It's the absence of truth, the silence, the way official records abruptly stop, the way no one, county officials, park rangers, or federal agencies, will talk about it. The way locals still lower their voices when they talk about the forest just past the railroad tracks. Maybe it's all in our heads. Maybe it's just a ghost story that grew out of an abandoned town and took on a life of its own. Or maybe Helltown is exactly what it sounds like, and the government didn't erase it to protect the land. They did it to protect us. The evacuation happened fast, too fast. In the weeks after the last family was forced out of Helltown, the entire town felt frozen in time, like someone hit pause in the middle of a life still being lived. Curtains still swayed in open windows. Mail sat untouched in mailboxes. Dishes remained on kitchen tables, half filled with cold food. Some homes even had the TV left on. It was as if people vanished mid-sentence. But the silence didn't last long. The government quickly sealed off every road leading into Helltown with towering fences, armed patrols, and aggressive signage that didn't sugarcoat anything. Do not enter. Hazardous area. U.S. government property. For months, locals from surrounding towns reported black, unmarked vehicles moving through the area at night. Helicopters hovered above the treetops in complete silence. Blue lights, unnatural and cold, flashed deep in the Cuyahoga Valley, then disappeared without a trace. Something wasn't right. And then, the stories started. One of the most famous came from a group of college students in 1981 who snuck into Helltown just after midnight. According to one of their journals, they entered through a narrow service road that wasn't fenced off yet. Within 10 minutes, they were chased by an old pickup truck with no headlights, no plates, and no driver they could see. The truck tailgated them at terrifying speeds, weaving through the dark like it had driven those roads 1,000 times before. It finally peeled off without a word, vanishing into the woods. One girl in the group said that before they ran, she caught a glimpse through the window of one of the abandoned houses. Inside stood a man, still, quiet, alone, dressed in what looked like a CDC hazmat suit. He was holding a radiation detector, clicking steadily. Their eyes locked for a second. Then he started counting backward. Counting down to what? No one ever found out. By the mid-1980s, whispers of a government cover-up began to spread. Local radio stations and late-night call-in shows started airing stories too wild to ignore. Residents of nearby towns shared strange reports, chemical smells in the air, weird headaches, birds falling from the sky. And then came the documents, unconfirmed, redacted, and deeply alarming. A leaked internal memo from the Environmental Protection Agency, dated 1974, noted, elevated levels of volatile organic compounds detected on the north perimeter of Boston Township. Potential neurotoxic effects possible with extended exposure. The location mentioned? The outskirts of Helltown. Even more concerning, public records show that 3 families filed formal complaints about strange nighttime emissions and respiratory distress. All of their claims were dismissed by officials, citing lack of evidence. So what happened? The leading theory wasn't about park preservation or urban planning. It was something darker, much darker. According to independent researchers, the US government may have used Helltown for a top-secret bioexperiment during the Cold War. With its isolated location, small population, and proximity to a dense forest, the town was the perfect test site. Some believe a military-grade chemical or viral agent was accidentally or intentionally released into the area. When containment failed, they had only one option: erase the town completely. Elliot Graves, a freelance investigative reporter who grew up near Helltown, spent 3 years researching the case. He met with whistleblowers, combed through military archives, and even claimed to have entered the restricted zone once in 1992. In an audio log he left behind, he described what he saw that night. "I thought it would be ruins, dead buildings. But no, the houses were sealed, bolted shut with steel plates. The church had biohazard warnings on the doors. There was a hum, like machinery still running. I thought I saw movement behind a broken window, something humanoid, but not human." That was the last anyone heard from him. His car was found on the edge of Cuyahoga Valley, headlights still on. No body, no notes, just silence. As the internet exploded in the early 2000s, the legend of Helltown grew. Conspiracy forums lit up with claims. Some users shared blurry night vision footage of the abandoned town. In one video, a glowing figure moved unnaturally through a field, gliding, not walking. Another clip picked up infrasound frequencies, deep, untraceable vibrations that caused nausea and fear in those who listened. Even former military personnel began speaking out anonymously. One man who claimed to work security during the early days of the Helltown lockdown said, "We weren't just guarding an empty town, we were keeping something in. And after sunset, we never patrolled alone." The strangest twist? In 2005, a researcher named Linda Karras intercepted radio chatter using an old military band frequency. The recording picked up a repeating broadcast loop near Helltown. It said only one thing: all containment protocols active. No breach, no breach, no breach. It repeated every 6 seconds. She contacted the authorities. The very next day, her equipment was seized by the FBI. She hasn't spoken publicly since. So now we're left with the questions. What was really going on in Helltown? Why has the government never reopened it to the public like other decommissioned sites? Why are there still active sensors and surveillance equipment decades later? And what happened to the people who went in but never came out? A town sealed off, history erased, files classified. But even the darkest secrets can't stay buried forever. Because in Part 3, we uncover the most terrifying lead of all, an underground facility no one knew existed, linked to a black ops program dating back to 1969. We'll dig into satellite images that hint at massive subterranean structures And we'll share the words of one former military contractor who broke his NDA to reveal what he saw beneath the soil of Helltown. You're going to want to hear this. Stay with us. They thought they could bury it, cover it up with fences, warning signs, and silence, erase it from maps, rename it, rebrand it as safe territory. But Helltown, Ohio, it never stayed buried for long. The truth, like the ground beneath those woods, was unstable, always threatening to erupt. In 2012, an anonymous whistleblower, known only by his codename Echo Gray, posted a series of files on a now-defunct dark web forum. These were blueprints, allegedly taken from declassified Department of Defense archives, and what they revealed sparked a new wave of theories. According to the documents, beneath the very streets of Helltown was a sprawling underground research facility known only as Project Chimera. Project Chimera was marked as a Tier 5 classified site, a level so secure that only black-budget defense personnel and top military intelligence had access. Its primary function? Biological and cognitive warfare research using genetically engineered subjects and atmospheric compounds. One map showed 6 levels beneath the Earth. One level was labeled simply containment, another experimentation chambers. The most chilling of all was the sub-basement, marked non-human holding cells. The files indicated that the entire Chimera facility was buried directly underneath the old Helltown Church, a church that, to this day, still stands, boarded, rusted, and watched by cameras that never blink. That same year, an independent research group called Signal Black used ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging to scan beneath parts of the Helltown site. What they found was undeniable. Large geometric cavities under the earth, massive rectangular spaces that had no geological explanation. Even stranger, heat signatures were detected nearly 200 feet below the surface. Heat from machinery or perhaps life. The team never returned. One of their members, Jackson Reller, later said in an interview, "We weren't just getting interference from the ground. Someone was jamming us, like we were being watched, not just by the government, but by something older, something buried there long before fences went up." And then came the creature sightings. Residents in towns neighboring the Helltown border began reporting figures in the woods, not bears, not coyotes, but tall, twisted things with pale gray skin, eyes that shimmered orange in the dark, and limbs too long for their bodies. Some hikers went missing. Others returned shaken, refusing to speak. In 2017, a pair of amateur ghost hunters ventured into the restricted zone and live-streamed their exploration. About 40 minutes into the broadcast, the camera began to glitch violently. A high-pitched whine filled the audio. One of the last images captured before the feed cut out was a silhouette, lanky, humanoid, standing completely still just outside the frame. Neither of them was ever seen again. The Department of the Interior has continued to deny any wrongdoing, insisting that Helltown was evacuated purely for safety and national park expansion. But inconsistencies in government records say otherwise. Tax documents show over $12 million spent on underground stabilization structures in Boston Township between 1980 and 1993. Despite the town being vacant the entire time. Satellite footage from 2009 shows ventilation shafts hidden among the trees, their tops covered in moss, but still steaming in winter. And maybe the most damning piece of evidence? A declassified transcript from a 1977 Pentagon meeting, leaked via FOIA requests, included this line: "If the Helltown specimens breach containment, immediate sterilization of the zone is authorized. Civilian casualties acceptable." Let that sink in. Sterilization of the zone. Civilian casualties acceptable. Now you're probably wondering, why would they build something like this in Ohio? Think about it. Rural, isolated, near national parks, a small, tight-knit population that wouldn't make too much noise if they were displaced. And better yet, access to vast cave systems like the Cuyahoga Caverns, which run deep underground and have never been fully mapped. These tunnels could easily house supply routes, escape shafts, or even connect to other off-grid installations. And some believe they still do. In 2020, drone footage leaked on Reddit showed a backhoe operating late at night near the fenced perimeter of Helltown. digging, reburying. The uploader, a man going by the name at Rust Signal, claimed he intercepted military radio frequencies indicating a containment breach. Within days, the video was removed from every platform, and at Rust Signal's account was wiped clean. His last posted message? They're not just guarding the past, they're feeding it. What does that mean? Many believe Chimera didn't just study organisms, it created them. Fusing animal DNA with human subjects, testing chemical compounds that altered brain function, pushing the limits of biology, all in the name of Cold War supremacy. And if those creations survived, they're still down there. That could explain the constant surveillance, the patrols, the classified maintenance projects and denial of public entry, the fear of what might escape. We're not talking about ghosts anymore. This isn't folklore or urban legend. This is something living, hidden, breathing in the dark. So, what is Helltown now? Officially, it's still part of the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. You can drive around the perimeter, hike near it, but try to get too close and you'll be stopped. No drones allowed, no late-night exploring, and you'll see those signs clear as day. U.S. government property, no trespassing, armed response authorized. And still, late at night, residents nearby report hearing it. Distant hums, sharp siren-like pulses from deep underground, animals going silent all at once. That eerie feeling of being watched. Even if there's no one there, is it paranoia? Or is it the truth trying to claw its way back up from below? Helltown, Ohio, may look like just another ghost town on the surface, but dig deeper and you uncover something horrifying. A legacy of secrets, experiments, and a government willing to sacrifice everything to keep it hidden. But secrets never stay buried. And maybe, just maybe, someday soon, Helltown will return the favor. If you enjoyed this episode, follow our podcast and share it with a friend who loves real-life mysteries and government secrets. And let us know, would you go into Helltown and if you had the chance? Next week, we head to Alaska, where an entire village vanished in one night without a trace. Was it a storm or something older than the cold itself? Don't miss it. Stay curious, stay cautious, and never ignore the signs.